So we are now in the exciting phase of the live demo. Yes. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here for a moment, and I'm going to reshare my screen for um, Indeed, actually, because I'm going to show you, and a resume. I'm going to show you how to use this. One of my favorite parts of the webinar, actually. So I'm just going to show you a sample resume we have here. So this is a fictitious resume. Um, and you'll see here that this person is an events manager. So we are going to be looking for a similar role to be able to compare and contrast the resume to. We're going to be looking at how to analyze a strengths and gaps prompt and look at the information it gives us there. So just to go through, you'll see it's pretty traditional in way of layout. Of course, the AI won't matter what the layout is of the resume. Actually, what matters is the data that's going into it. So I am going to stop sharing just for a moment there. I'm just going to copy, actually. Let me just copy that down. There you go. All right, so let's go back there. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go into ChatGPT. So I'm just going to stop sharing again. And then I'm going to go into ChatGPT here. All right. So first thing I'm going to do is type in the prompt using the following job description. And job description. Give me an analysis of my strengths and gaps for this role. As you can probably tell, my spelling is absolutely fine. My typing is not so much. So forgive me as I go through here. Okay, so my resume, let's just make it really clear that it knows what it's getting there. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we do have to be very careful around data. So you remember me saying don't add any sensitive data. So as a matter of good practice, what I'm going to do is I know there is a name on page 2, so you can see that there. I'm actually going to remove that, even though it's a fake name, as a matter of good practice and a good habit for you all to get into there. And then go to the bottom of the resume. No need to add spacing, in terms of new paragraph or anything like that necessarily. As long as you're adding here job description, there we are. Okay, so we'll keep that on ice right there. What we're going to do is we're going to go straight across to a real job description here. And this is from Indeed. I'm going for the Toronto area, but of course I know some of you may not be living in Toronto. That's absolutely fine. Just type in, of course, the nearest city or area for you. And this is a role for a senior event manager at Redstone Agency. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this job description down. I'm not going to copy anything about the benefits. It's not particularly useful. And I'm also not going to copy anything from anything underneath um, around kind of further benefits, details, salary, and the company blurb. It's not really quite so relevant to me. What matters is the actual job description itself. So I'm going to go back up here, and I'm going to copy here. There we are. All right. So let's try and Get that there. Okay, so I'm going to go back to ChatGPT, and now I'm going to paste that job description in. All right. So you can see here very quickly, ChatGPT is giving me some results based on strengths. Now, I always say this is giving you the good news first, right? Let's capitalize on the strengths you bring first. And there should be no surprises here, really, to a certain extent, of the strengths that you bring to the role if you feel it's a good fit. But it's always nice to be reminded of what you bring and how that's going to be of value and benefit to an employer. So it's still going under there. And of course, the gaps. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. When, as humans, we read a job description, there are many of us who would read that role, job description, and decide, you know what, yep, I think I've got about 80% of it covered. I'm going to apply, or even higher. But they might not always be fully aware of where the gaps are or how an employer is thinking in terms of the gaps. And this is where it's so useful. So before you apply for any role, I strongly recommend you use this prompt to help you get an idea. So, for example, in this case, there is the discussions around mentoring teams. This is a senior role, so I can understand that very well. The experience in not-for-profit. Now, it might be at this point, in fact, quite a few of my clients do this when I'm working with them. They'll say, yes, but I have non-profit experience. And I'm like, okay, great. Please do add it onto your resume. Now is your time to figure out and get a sense of what is it the employer needs or is looking for. So if there are gaps that you can see here that you do actually have, you can fill in those gaps based on this information in your resume. You can adjust and tailor accordingly. Okay. So that's the recommendations are underneath there as well, which is great. Um, so it's giving you some suggestions there of how you can improve your application, which is great. So let's have a look at another prompt here. So what if you are a little bit confused or perhaps at a career crossroads? It might be that your role has ended recently, you were unexpectedly laid off or terminated, and I've had some clients across the years who would say, you know what, don't make me go back into events management, Bella. I just don't want to do it. Or don't make me go back into customer service. I'm not interested in that role. I need something different. Well, one of the things I usually look at is where the allied roles are first. An important question to ask ourselves really here is how um, is it that the job was terrible, the career was terrible, or wasn't particularly, weren't particularly fond of that, or was it the management you were working for? Because there is a big difference. Worth thinking about that. However, if you are interested in change or even just kind of having something aligned, you can use this prompt here, which is based on my resume, list me 10 roles I'm qualified for, rank them, and give me a readiness percentage based on my likelihood to get that job in a table. So the resume is already there. We don't need to add that in again. And there you go. So there are some alternatives. Now, all of those are very, very closely aligned, but you can see here it gives you a good idea of some alternative job titles. Even having some job titles to apply for can be very useful as a start. So I'd recommend that if you are at a career crossroads. Okay, so let's go back to our resume. So one of the things that this resume will do, and your resume should do, is be easy to change out using AI. Gone are the days, I'll just hold up one of these to the screen here, that we are using highlighters. Some of you may remember this, some of you may not. So for those over a certain age, you may remember highlighters. We used to print out our resumes, print out the job descriptions. We used to highlight, say, right, okay, they want somebody organized. Am I organized? They want somebody who can communicate. Can I communicate? So those days are gone. It used to take us around between 2.5 to 3 hours, I would say, to do resumes, do a really good job on it. Now that process of changing out your resume can take as little as half an hour. And using these prompts absolutely takes half an hour, 20 minutes to half an hour of your time. So it's huge, huge time saver, as we mentioned earlier. So how do we do that then? So we may remember our resume here. So this resume has not been changed to match with the role. It's just a resume that has been presented. Um, one of the things we can make sure is that the job title is the same. So you'll see here that the word events manager is there. You may decide, even if you've never held the job title before, to offer a target here. So I'm just going to put that there. AIM senior. So there we are. Okay. All right, let's try that again. Okay, so senior, right there we are. Get there eventually, folks. Thank you for your patience there. So, by doing that, it means that you are then targeting your resume and getting past the job descriptions, right? So, sorry, not job descriptions. What am I saying? Applicant tracking system software. You're trying to, that's your aim here with this, is to make sure that we're passing through the applicant tracking system software and meeting that. One of the best ways to do that is to make sure the job titles match. Underneath, we have our 4 areas of expertise. So what we can do, I know that this is not tailored for the role yet. So what we can do is go back to ChatGPT. So bear with me while I go back in. Okay. So using my resume, let's just uncap that. Using my resume and the job, actually, let's change that, sorry. Referring to the job description, give me 4 areas of expertise that I will need to show on my resume to help me get an interview for the job. List these with no explanations. And the reason why I'm doing that is because otherwise ChatGPT will do exactly that. I've been doing my best to train ChatGPT not to do it, but unfortunately it just keeps doing it. So the reason why you just want the keywords is because you would just want to copy and paste that out if we can, or at least modify. Now we can see here that these are likely to be too long for our spacing on our resume here. And of course we do need to check, do we have it? So there's no point in putting post-event reporting and continuous improvement on our resume if we can't honestly, hand on heart, say that we've got that experience. So do keep it authentic, folks, is what I can say. So I'm looking to simplify. Okay, so simplify further. Okay. There we go. Right, that is more like it. So you can see there what I'm going to do. I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment, go back to my resume here. And I can paste those in if I agree with it. So, if I think, yep, I can speak to that experience, I'll be able to answer some questions about that at interview, then that's absolutely great. And so that's a very quick and easy way to be able to get that in there. You may decide to add in another one. It's up to you. Um, there we go. Audience engagement. Let's keep that one there. Okay, so underneath we have a very, very short introduction. You can tailor your introduction to the role by adding in a simple prompt, create. Well, why don't we do that? Let's go back to ChatGPT. All right, so create a short summary in 4 sentences that I can add to my resume that will help me get an interview for the job. So it's really kind of quite specific, really. I like adding that in that will help me get an interview because this is a very practical way forward to augment your job search. Um, why would you need some text in there that's not going to help you get an interview for the job? That's the whole point really of doing resume creation and resume edits. So let's have a look and see what that does. All right. So again, if you're happy with that, I might decide to tailor it a little bit. Um, so I might decide to add in, I know that this role needs 3 to 5 years minimum experience preferred. So I might decide to put that in there as an example. So let me just go into the resume again. All right. And there you go. Okay. So let's just unbold that out. Okay. With So I'll just put something like 3+ years experience. Um, um, okay, and lovely. Okay, underneath are the core competencies. And so here, these really do need to meet the job description because the algorithms in applicant tracking system software um, are really going to be working with us or against us depending on how many keywords we're hitting here. So again, I'm going to go back to my ChatGPT here. And I'm going to be typing in the following prompt. So list me the top 15 skills I will need to show on my resume to help me get an interview on this job. Limit the number of soft skills and include anything technical. Okay. All right. So the reason why I'm limiting soft skills, it's not that they're not valuable, it's just that we have the tendency sometimes in AI of lots of soft skills and not quite so many technical skills or operational skills. So I just want to make sure that that is actually covered. So let's go ahead there. All right. So again, I'll be fully checking these through. Just because the employer is asking for these, it doesn't mean to say, of course, if I don't have it, I can't put it on there. If you're happy with those, then again, you would copy and paste those into your resume. And of course, that means the algorithms are doing their job when it comes to the applicant tracking system software. Not all companies will use applicant tracking system software, and that will be covered in another webinar in this series, so do check that out when you get a chance. More on that later. Okay, so we've established then our job description. We have established our competencies and our expertise. The other thing, of course, we can do is look at our 4 key pillars of success, because that's part of our resume as well. So, what are 4 key pillars of my success that are a great match for this role? Offer a little explanation for each. Because what happens with AI is, because it's gone into list mode with my previous prompt, I don't want it to go into list mode with this. I want it to give me a little bit of information. So you can see there, instead of you could just put successfully managed, or it has successfully managed if you prefer. And you can choose to massage that data and add in your own flourish, of course, make it sound real to you. And of course, it will give you some really good pointers of how you are a really good fit for that role. And that directly relates. Let's go back to the resume here, to this section here, key pillars of success for each of these, sorry, for the role that we're applying for. Underneath, of course, is also important to make sure we're using our accomplishment statements that are tailored to the role. So what we can do is we can copy some of that text out, and we can go to ChatGPT. So I'm just going to share my screen with you again. I appreciate we're jumping around a lot here, folks. Stay with me. Okay, so in here, using the following text, tailor these accomplishment statements. So just as a reminder, an accomplishment statement is not just what you did, but the value that you bring as a result. So what is the impact of what you've done to the role? Okay, and that's the text. There you go. And there might not be too much in the way of difference there, if that's okay. You know what? That's just the way it is. There might be some subtle differences. So again, check through it, make sure that you are adding your own flourish to it. If you can see anything that's kind of spearheaded, orchestrated, or seamlessly, do exert some caution there, because that's ChatGPT. You can just see it straight away. Adding metrics is really key. So if there is some supporting metrics you can add in of size and scope, how big, how many, how much, please do. And that's all really useful for the employer. It helps the employer get a sense of size and scope of your experience. So there you have it. That's how to alter a resume quickly and easily for any role. But what else can ChatGPT do for us? Well, the other thing, of course, it can do is create a covering letter. So let's have a go with that. Okay. All right. So create a compelling covering letter for this role in 5 short paragraphs. Include a paragraph about why I would want to work there. Now, of course, we are risking it a little bit here with AI because it can't possibly know in our heads of why we would want to apply for this particular company. Um, it might not know, for example, that we're really impressed by their working culture. It might not know that we're impressed by their future standing or outlook, or that we're impressed by their latest projects. So, for that, though, at least we can get a bit of a sense ahead of time just by it giving us that prompt of, okay, so why is it I want to work for them? Employers really look out for this kind of thing because it helps us build bridges between us and the employer. This paragraph, more often than not, is missing off covering letters. The covering letter seems to be all about them rather than building that bridge between yourself and the company. So I would always encourage you folks, please do include that in there. So let's have a look and see. Okay, so very traditional, name and address, of course, on the left there. Now, I would say, you know what, we might not need to worry about our address or our contact details there, because what you can do is actually use what we call your letterhead, and your letterhead is this part. Okay, so I would strongly recommend using that at the top of your covering letter. So just a little tip from me there. So if we go back to ChatGPT, you can see there that it's set out the hiring letter in a matter of seconds. So it will talk about your experience there in a different way than the resume can, really. The resume is quite a dry document, a factual document. This is what I did, this is where I did it, this is how I did it, and the metrics and so on. But it's not actually giving a narrative, a story. Quite often I'm asked if covering letters are required for roles. That's probably one of the most common questions I get. My answer is it always depends. It depends on the system that you're working with, the applicant tracking system software, whether it's Taleo, Workday, Greenhouse as an example. It depends on the size of the company. So larger companies, some tech companies might not require a covering letter. But some smaller companies would definitely require. Do they use ATS? No, it's too expensive. So it's really only the really large companies that would use ATS systems, applicant tracking system software, perhaps some larger, medium-sized companies. But it is very expensive. It's a great way to sift. And of course, the ATS system is not deciding whether you get an interview. It's humans who are deciding that. It's well worth remembering that, right? They are using ATS to help sift you out based on knockout questions. And usually that's because if we're applying for roles, we need to be in the right place, so the right location. We need to have the right skill level and or particular qualifications that the employer is looking for. If we can't answer all three of those questions, that's why we get knocked out. And that's why we get the automatic rejection. Now, is that absolutely foolproof for every single role? Not always. There are huge numbers of candidates applying for some roles, but it's worth mentioning, just check with the knockout questions. If between 3 and 5 knockout questions at the beginning of your application, if you're not able to answer one of those, or you can't quite fit one of them, that's why you're not making it to interview. So it's worth remembering that. So again, tailor as you go. Really important with a covering letter to add your own content, your own flourish here. You may decide to add in your top 3 skills or qualities as they relate to the role. That can be really useful, particularly if you're going for roles in leadership where it's going to be read by busy C-suite and or board members. And for the rest of us mere mortals, of course, it might be easy to set that out as well. It makes it really nice and clear and easy to read. Okay, so what are we moving on to next? Well, let's have a look at a different form of AI. So we've used ChatGPT to help us with content creation when it comes to covering letters, resumes. We've looked at career direction. We've looked at a strengths and gaps analysis. ChatGPT is great for all those things. When it comes to company research, though, ChatGPT is kind of numbered, really, outdone, shall we say, by alternative AI. One of them that I would like to share with you today is called Perplexity. Some of you may have come across Perplexity, others may not. That's absolutely fine. Whatever the case, I'm sure you'll be about to learn something new. So I'm just going to share my screen with you here. And bear with me a second. There we are. Perplexity. There you go. I'm using the free version of Perplexity. As you all know, there are various versions of AI. I've been a subscriber of OpenAI since February 2023. So the version of ChatGPT I was using is 4.0 mini. But when it comes to Gemini, I'm also a subscriber there because I use Gemini Workspace. I pay for that service for my business. But Perplexity, I tend to use the free version. I've not subscribed to it yet. Of course, there is an option for you to do that if you wanted to. So what are we going to do here? Well, what we're going to do is a bit of something that is essential to any job search, and that is company research. So we're trying to find out as much about them as possible, but there are kind of different areas or different avenues that we might be finding useful. One of them is to look at things like company culture. So when you've just been laid off, you may be feeling a little burnt out from your last role. It might be that you're kind of a bit fed up with the company culture at your last role, or you're thinking, well, look, is the grass any going to be any greener? It might be the same. Well, no two employers are the same, I have to say. So it's worth researching company culture. So I'm just going to copy and paste a prompt in here that I've prepared from earlier. Okay, so it's research and summarize the company culture at TELUS. I chose TELUS because it's a well-known Canadian company. Include information on work-life balance, values, employee reviews, and any recent news or events that shed light on the work environment. Now, the reason I've chosen Perplexity over ChatGPT is because you may remember me saying earlier that Perplexity is really good for providing sourced information. And when you're doing research, ChatGPT, you can use deep research if you're a subscriber. But if you're not a subscriber and you use the free service, it won't necessarily give you the deep research, whereas the free version of Perplexity does indeed do that, does have a level of depth to it. So where does it pull all its information from? Well, you can see that there's 22 sources that it's pulled this information from. Now, obviously, it's going to be pulling information from its website, which is always going to give you good news. But what about elsewhere? So what are the business pages saying? What's Reddit saying? Right? What is Glassdoor saying? Now, of course, Glassdoor's data, as some of you may know, is not always the most reliable. So it's important that Perplexity pulls from a number of different sources, not just a few. So 22 sources is quite healthy. But you can see there, it gives you the link to the sources as well, which is really great. So if we go back up to the search, it will tell you there exactly what is going on with the working culture in TELUS. So again, important to verify. At the moment, it's got mixed reviews, but generally leads positive to its working culture. So let's have a look at the reviews there. There's positive, there's negative. Former employees, that's always a good source of information. And they've got recent details of recent news and events there, which is great. It gives real-time information, does Perplexity, which is great. And then if you wanted to do some further research, you can give you some more research under some different headings underneath. So you can decide whether you feel the values of TELUS or any other company are going to be a good fit for you. So let's try another prompt. So we've figured out what the working culture might be like. Um, let's choose a different company now. So I'm going to look at a different company, RBC, of course, another large Canadian company. So analyze RBC's industry standing and future outlook, provide insights on their financial performance, competitive landscape, potential challenges, and growth opportunities in the coming years. This is around you having a sense of trust of the company you're going into. We live in how can we put it? Uncertain times, I would say, here in Canada. So I think it's very important that we get a sense of that, of what's actually going on in terms of a future standing and outlook. Some of my clients will say to me, look, you know what, I want something stable. I don't want to job hop around too much. I want to know that the company is going to look after me and my career long term. So this is good indication of how it might do that or might be able to do that. So, of course, it will give you details of financial performance, the competitive landscape out there, so how they're comparing to the other big five, or of the big four, I should say there, because it is part of the big five, and the potential challenges that the company is facing out there. Now, of course, we all know there are some challenges ahead in the Canadian economy, and this is really good to keep up to date with. So I would strongly encourage you to use these prompts, and they are available in my prompt guide, which is a companion document to this webinar. Growth opportunities are also good to know as well. Where are things shifting to? Where are they moving to? Is there expansion? Is there contraction? We need to be able to be in a position to know. And of course, one of the things this also helps with is networking. So when we're talking to people about what life might be like at RBC, we can talk about the tech innovation they're doing, and so on. We can talk about the wider landscape. We can help zoom out a little bit with that, as well as get the zoom in from the people you want to speak to. And the future outlook there. So there you go. Really interesting. Again, there are further related searches that you can do underneath there. So, final prompt of the day. Let's have a look at that. So I'm interested in recent projects. So I'm going to choose another company, another Canadian company, of course. I'm going to choose Shopify. So find and summarize recent projects or initiatives undertaken by Shopify, highlight the skills and technologies involved and the impact of these projects, and any employee testimonials or insights related to this work. And it's just doing its search now for you. Again, it's going through quite a few sites there. Look at that, 52, more than 52 sources there. Wow. Just curious actually for RBC, how many sources there were there? Yeah, 69, more than 69 sources there. So, you can see how thorough this is really, which is what I really like about Perplexity. Let's have a look at Shopify then. So, again, this is brilliant for your networking power. It's really good to be kept up to date with what's going on in a company in terms of their research and development or R&D process, what the innovation is, what the investment is in R&D, and because that's really good to be able to talk about when you're networking out there. So I've heard that Shopify has been implementing AI. I did actually speak, this is a real life situation. I did actually speak to somebody the other day who mentioned that Shopify are not hiring people unless they have active AI experience. So things are changing, folks. Let's use some AI to help us figure these out and figure the landscape ahead. Well worth it. And of course, these are the areas that they're making some investments into. So if this is the kind of thing you're interested in, this is great for you. There's a value match, there's a skill match, and potentially there is a kind of vision match here of I want to be part of this exciting company because I see things in the same way, or I can contribute immediately to what this company is trying to do. So, skills and technologies involved. Look at that. Brilliant. Sets that out for me. Um, and it also provides some testimonials here too, as well as some more information underneath. Okay, so we have come to the end of our presentation today. So I have really appreciated you being with this presentation and with this webinar. I'm really hoping that the tips and tricks you've seen today using AI will be of help and benefit to you in your job search. I'm hoping that it's really going to accelerate your job search. That's the whole point. As we all know, job search is an arduous business that nobody really wants to be doing at any given time. So if there's anything that us career coaches can do to help you through that process, that's where we're really at, working with you and partnering alongside you. My name is Bella Doswell. I'm a career transition coach, and it's been an absolute pleasure to present this webinar for you today. Hopefully, I'll see you again soon for the others in this series. Bye bye.